Cheer, cheer the red and the white, honor the name by day and by night. Lift that noble banner high, shake down the thunder from the sky. What though the odds...
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast. My name is Bonz. Joining me today we have Punts.
How are you guys?
And Eth-dog from the Essendon board.
Hello again.
Now, we're coming off Look, I'm pretty happy with it. It's a 22-point win over Essendon. Eth-dog, what were your thoughts on the game?
Oh, it was a good game, I thought. In the first half, you guys really shut our run down, our outside run. I think you had 50 or 60 more uncontested possessions than us in the first half, which is very unlike us. And in the second half, it was a game of just really bad mistakes when we had momentum. I thought Heppel and Hurley were our best, and for you guys, I was really impressed with Parker as usual. And Pike killed us in the hitouts.
Yeah, it was actually interesting. I was actually going to mention that. We've blasted Pike on a few occasions this year, especially when he's generally gone up against athletic ruckmen. He's really been shown to struggle, but he did pretty good on Ryder on the weekend. Ryder was a danger for us when he went up forward. He just had a little bit too much toe for Richards, but Pike was good on the weekend. He had a fair few hitouts to advantage, and he provided a contest all over the ground, and his tackling was back. Not to mention, he plucked a couple of contested marks. I was really happy with the game. For me, the standouts were, I do want to give another, for the third week running, a special mention to Gary Rowan. He's really looking at home in the back line, and he did a brilliant job coming out of defence on the weekend and laying a few spoils and a few nice tackles, and it's always good to see Gaz get a goal. Rampier, once again, I think he might actually be, compared to last year, he might be our most improved player. I know Punts here blasted him a little for his disposal efficiency when over the preseason, but he seems to have really sorted that out now. I'm really happy with how he's developing. The player I do want to give a massive shout out to, Grundy and Parker. They were both brilliant on the weekend. Von actually got the bet about Von's sure thing about Carlisle, only one goal. Well done to Grundy. I think he deserved, from my opinion, he was best on ground. He shut down Carlisle, won a fair few one-on-one matchups, took 7 marks, had 22 disposals, a lot of them coming out as defensive 50 with 77% efficiency. And Luke Parker was the man who really stood up for us in the midfield on the weekend. He may have had a few clangers, but 18 contested disposals, half a dozen tackles. He set up a few goals. He kicked a few behinds, but he was still getting inside 50 and plucking a few marks around the ground. He's really stepped it up for us recently, and in the last month he's been our best midfielder, and that includes Kennedy or McGlynn. Parker's is probably close to the first name picked on our selection sheet at the moment. Now, Punts, what were your thoughts on the game?
I thought we started off pretty well. First quarter, I thought McVeigh set the tone. A couple of crucial moments on Heppel that he obviously that goal he got us started off. I thought he played well in the first quarter. As you guys have mentioned, Grundy was probably one of the best on ground, stopping Carlisle. I know everybody said the last 2 weeks Carlisle hasn't had a decent defender in Maxwell, and he had Roughhead, which isn't a bad defender at the Bulldogs, but he has played very well, Carlisle, the last 2 weeks, and for Grundy to shut him down the way he did was really good. I thought actually Ted would have got Carlisle, but they gave the big job to Grundy, and Grundy stood up and he did a really, really good job. And as you guys mentioned, Parker again inside, his inside work was just phenomenal again. Geez, when he come off that centre half forward mark and he went flying in the air, I was crossed my fingers. Nothing was wrong with him because he got hit pretty hard and he got straight back up. Obviously, he's just a tough bastard. I thought the defence as a whole, everyone just worked incredibly well. That night we shut him down big time. We caused him to kick it long. Obviously, Ryder had, as you said, had a bit of toe for Richards, but that's expected. Ryder's a bit of a freak, I think. I think he's one of the best ruckmen in the comp at the moment. What else? I thought Malcheski was better this week with 27 off the half back. Gary Rowan again for his third week. Just looks like every week he's getting better every week. Couple of crucial spoils. I reckon as soon as he can get his confidence and that going up even more, he'll become even more attacking, which is good for us because just doesn't mean you're just going to have a defender sitting there spoiling. You're going to also have another defender attacking, so it gives us more of an avenue. He went into the forward line the last quarter as well, so you can always flick Gary around that way. The midfield I thought wasn't great. Again, I think we got smashed in the clearances again, which is a bit of an issue for me, just considering we got well and truly beaten from three-quarter time onwards last week against the Hawks, and that pretty much decided the game. So I still think it's a massive issue at the moment. It has to be rectified. I know Pike had 49 hitouts. Not so many were to advantage in my book. There was a lot of times that he thought that Heppel was on our team. Hit it straight down to Heppel a couple of times. Besides that, he looked like he was getting his contested marking going again. Kicked a goal, so his game was really good overall. Goodsy stepped up and done a couple of things, which was also good, and it was good to see Tipper get through the game too, and hopefully he can get some game time under his belt because I think he's pretty unfit at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, Essendon did a pretty good job on Tippett on the weekend, but he still had his chances. I mean, he kicked 2 goals and missed a couple of pretty easy set shots, or shots that are kickable by his standards generally, even if he is a bit of a 50-50 toss-up of the coin, whether he's going to kick it from anywhere on the ground. The player who I was a little bit worried about his lack of form on the weekend was Sam Reid. 2 weeks in a row he hasn't been really brilliant around the ground, so I think he'll need to pick it up a little bit for the Port Adelaide game. Really hope he isn't struggling with that hip injury at the moment, but it seems like it may have been affecting him a little on the ground.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Oh, you go.
No, you're right. Go for it.
Hurley was Reid's direct opponent, and he was probably best on ground for Essendon. So I'll throw that out there. Sam Reid was probably worse on ground for Sydney, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely Hurley's best game I've ever seen him play, to be honest with you. I know he cops it a bit, Hurley.
He needs to get a freaking haircut to start off with.
He was taken pretty low in the draft, but he was definitely the best on for them by an absolute country mile on the weekend. Probably him and Heppel, I'd presume. We'll get in the best for them, but he absolutely gave Reid an absolutely spanking. That was just a plain old spanking that he gave Reid. He even pushed forward and kicked a goal. So, as you said, Bonz, Reid has to step it up because getting 9 possessions, playing forward with, Tippett. I know Buddy didn't play, but he's just got to do more. You can't just run around and get 9 possessions a game when you've got 2 other forwards that are demanding the number 1 and 2 to forward, and you're getting the third.
Well, he didn't spend the entire game up forward. He was helping out in defence at times, especially in the second quarter. But yeah, it's a little bit worrying.
Like, I know he goes down loose man in defence and does, gets a couple of spoils in sometimes, but even as the 7th defender down there as a loose man, he should
be finding more of the ball.
Run, you know what I mean? Providing that, option with a bit of run out of the back line as well. I don't know where he's at the moment. I know he did a little bit of ruck work as well, but I don't know.
I think he might be injured, but we'll see if hopefully another week and maybe a light week on the training track will help him out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to put this forward. Ted Richards came to Essendon as a forward. I'm not sure how he was in the weeks prior, but he struggled a bit last week. Maybe switch Richards with Reid for a week or 2. That could solve Reid's issues, and Richards is actually a pretty good forward from what I can recall.
I can't even remember the last time Richards was thrown up forward. I think it would have been 2008. It was that game where he got knocked out against Carlton,
Yeah.
where he had a couple of broken ribs. That would have been 2008 or 9, maybe. Look, Richards is still probably our main defender at the moment. I know Grundy took Carlisle on the weekend, but most weeks Richards is taking the first defender. I think Reid will be better suited as that loose defender coming in over the top. He just needs to get maybe a little bit more confidence. Maybe just play him in the one position next week and stop moving him all around the ground. Wouldn't be the worst idea to have him as the loose defender against Port Adelaide. They've got a couple of real dangerous matchups, so we'll need him to come across and help out Grundy and Richards. Now, on the weekend, both me and Punts actually watched the reserves against the Brisbane Lions reserves. So it was an interesting match. Punts, you want to take us away on that one?
Yeah, it was an interesting match. It wasn't. It was close. It was a little bit scrappy at times. I was impressed with. I know we spoke about it on the board, but Hewitt. I think he had 30 or 30 plus possessions and kicked 2 goals, and probably should have had 3, which he kicked one from the boundary that would have been a decent old goal. But he was awesome inside and out. He can just play dual positions. Like he can play as an insider, he can play as an outsider, and he's just got his sidestep in between. In traffic is just awesome. He just
it's really interesting. Like he was a very, very good. He was a very, very good footballer, actually, when he was coming through at under-18s level as an underage player, and we got him in the second round of the draft. But I remember watching him play for South Australia last year and thought he was all right, but he's really stepped it up another level, especially in the second half of this year. That, as you're speaking, that sidestep he has through traffic is almost Pendlebury-like. He seems to find time when there is none, and he's so composed with the ball. I don't remember many of his disposals on the weekend, and he had a lot of them missing a target.
He can kick dual side too. He can kick left, right. Same with handballs. He's one of them players that you couldn't tell. He's sort of like Sam Mitchell. You couldn't tell the difference between their left and right, which is another good asset to his game. But as you said, his sidestep in traffics is unreal, and he's probably a bit taller than people, think as well. Like he's 186, 87 centimetres, which is quite a big these days. That what everyone's sort of going at for that size midfielder, and to move like that is, I think he'll be pushing for senior selection next year if he can keep that up. I was also impressed with Biggs again. Obviously off the half back, he's far too good for that league in my opinion. He just does it week in, week out off the half back flank and never hardly misses the top.
What really surprised me about Biggs was how willing he is to actually get up the ground and help out. He's really good at zoning off and intercepting that kick outside of defensive 50 by the opposition. I think I counted him taking nearly 7 or 8 interception marks on the weekend, and for someone that height, it's incredible the way he reads the ball, and he can bloody use it as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
Really don't want to lose him next year. He'll be a loss.
No, I thought Dick was also good off the half-back. He played a good game off the half-back. And another mention, probably Tommy Walsh. I know he cops a bit of flack on here, but he played really well at centre-half-back on the weekend. And I think he had 21 possessions and 9 rebounds. So he's also, considering he does cop a bit of flack on here, he's playing well.
That being said about Tommy Walsh, Brisbane...
Grundy or Richards.
That being said, at the same time about Tommy Walsh, Brisbane don't exactly have many reserves in their many forwards in their reserves at the moment. They're struggling for forwards at senior level.
Yeah, true, but it's not the first week he's been named the best. He was named the best 2 weeks ago, back to back. So he's playing quite good football. If touch wood, anything was happen to Teddy Richards or Grundy, he'd be well ahead of anybody else in the twos, because LRT wouldn't get a game. Not in form.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a massive talking point coming out of reserves. LRT really looks like he's dropped off a cliff. He wouldn't be anywhere near senior selection at the moment. If we're playing LRT, we'd be scraping bottom of the barrel.
Yep.
The other player who surprised me, I know there's been a fair bit of talk about him wanting to play on a different club and everything next year, but Ryan O'Keefe wasn't brilliant on the weekend. He found a bit of the ball, but he didn't use it well enough. He coughed up a few easy shots inside forward 50, and yeah, he's just looks out of pace. It looks like Neefle was too fast for him, which is sad.
Well, that's like a lot of people on here. I know I'm not saying I'm no expert, but a lot of people here say, "Oh, Ryan O'Keefe got 35 possessions on the weekend. Why isn't he in the seniors?" They didn't watch the game. Well, that's exactly the reason why. It's because he's been turning over the ball a lot. I don't know if you noticed on the weekend, he got caught holding the ball probably 2 or 3 times.
I've actually counted 5 times he's been caught holding the ball. 5 different occasions.
Yeah, he got caught. He got caught holding the ball. I think he kicked it out in the full a couple of times. There's a couple of times where he marked it inside a forward 50 and tried playing on, and it just didn't come off.
The only thing I
Mm.
really remember Ryan O'Keefe pulling off on the weekend was that spoil in the first quarter to set up a goal. That was it.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if he does get picked up next year. But I can see where the Swans, how unfortunate it is. I can see why the Swans have gone down the path of not playing O'Keefe and playing Lloyd and these kids in front of him.
Speaking of the kids coming through,
Which is a
we had
shame.
2 academy youngsters, one academy and one father-son selection, who caught my eye on the weekend. We had Hiscox in the number 51 jumper. He looked really in place at Neville level, actually. I was really impressed with his game. He's a strong boy around the stoppages, and yeah, I think he'll be a real surprise packet. I know everyone's talking about Heaney, they're talking about Mills, we're talking about Dunkley, but Hiscox doesn't look out of place in the Swans jumper. I reckon he'll get drafted by us eventually.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. He's a little jet. Apparently, or as you know, you've seen his pace. He's really quick, and I'm pretty sure he's got a really good endurance base as well. I've heard he's a really good runner. So, as you said, hopefully the Swans pick him up. Eddie cracks the shits, whatever. You know what I mean? Doesn't bother me.
And the other one who caught my eye was Kelly's kid. 16 years old. He didn't get a huge amount of the ball, but he was hard at it like his father and shows a bit of potential and some talent. How much of the ball did he get, Punts?
Didn't. I don't know his stats, but as you said, he was hard at it. As you said, like his old man. You were pretty impressed when you got to the ground. You got to have a photo with his dad.
Oh yeah, couldn't believe it.
But,
Poor Kelly just standing around, Gate. No,
Yep.
Look, Kelly's kid, for a 16-year-old playing in a senior game, he really wasn't overawed by the occasion, and he's someone we're going to have to keep a note on. He hasn't really been talked high in draft calculations for the draft in 2 years' time recently, but if he keeps putting in performances like the weekend, he's going to be up there, I think. He might be shaping as a second-round selection at this point in time, which is... So you can never have too many Kellys in a squad, can't you?
Nah, true. If he's half as good as his old man, they should pick him up.
If he's half as good as his old man, he'll be worth a top 5 selection.
True.
Now, we may as well go on to the next game. We've got a pretty important match next week. I think if we win against Port Adelaide, we're going to be confirming a top 2 selection. How do you see the game running out, guys?
Yeah. What?
Sorry?
Eth-dog, from an outsider's selection or perspective, how do you see the game against Port Adelaide running out?
Ooh, it's a really tough one. Yeah, I think Port are better than their current form, and they're the type of side that, coming off a heartbreaking loss to Collingwood, they're the type of side that would get up for a side like Sydney. I think if Hanbury's back...
Yeah, Hanbury's back this week.
Yeah,
He's come out and said in the media.
Back, he can match the running power of most of the Port Adelaide midfielders, which will be really important late. And your forward line's really good, and honestly, I think Swans should win. With, I think the Swans have it all with those two back, and I see it as a really good game.
From an Essendon perspective, obviously you saw how we played against you on the weekend. Can you see anything you think we'd have to really drastically improve to beat Port Adelaide?
Not the way they're playing, no. If they play to their form, I think you need to deliver inside 50 a lot better, because you were the entries from both sides were poor in my opinion, but that's probably due to both teams being top 3 in the league for defence and to their ability to force their opponents to have poor entries. I think that's the main area you need to work on.
Okay, Punts, how do you see the game against Port Adelaide turning out?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Port obviously lost today, so they're going to be trying to bounce back again like they have the last 4 or 5 weeks. I know they just got over the line against Melbourne, but they've been on a bit of a back step the last 4 or 5 weeks, so I think they'll be trying to bounce back this week. Obviously, Collingwood shut down their corridor use, and they just, I know lately they've been talking about Port Adelaide going sideways. That's what it looks like. In the back line, they're going back and forwards. So if we can do what pretty much Collingwood did today and press up on them and make them go sideways instead of going through the corridor and that rebound footy they like to play, I think we'll get over the line. Obviously, at the SCG, I think their midfield gave us a little bit of a spanking that day. Ebert, I think, might have had 40. I think Gray had 35. So we've got to stop that. Again, we have to stop it this week. Bit of outside run they might get us with. I don't know if Matty White's in or not, but I'm not too worried about their forward line. Schultz is, a really good player. I think Teddy can handle him. I know he kicked 3 or 4 at the SCG earlier on, but I think Teddy can get the job on him, and Grundy will go to Westhoff, which is an interesting matchup. Westhoff's got a little bit of pace, but I think Grundy can hold his own. I think we'll win. I think we'll win this week. I don't think it'll be by a hell of a lot, but if the midfield can get up and going and get first use of the ball going forward, I think Carlisle and Trentgrove will be under a lot of pressure with Buddy and with Buddy and Tippett. And if we can get one out with Carlisle like Collingwood did today with Cloak, I think he can expose him. But whether we can or not is another story.
It's going to be a tough match. Look, if we play like how we played against Port Adelaide the SCG earlier in the year, and if Port Adelaide step up, I think we're going to struggle to win at Adelaide Oval. That being said, Port haven't been in great form, and I really wasn't impressed with their performance on the weekend against Collingwood. Obviously, it just seemed like they almost seemed rushed in disposal when they were trying to actually go up the ground. They were forced to chip sidewards just to try and create an opening, and that really allowed Collingwood to get back in the contest. I don't know how many goals Collingwood got off direct turnovers, but it would have been at least half their score.
Yeah, well, Collingwood, as I said, and they've been saying now since the midway point that a lot of teams have worked out Port, and every team's sort of really pushing up on them, really pushing up to the contest, really pushing up to their half-back line, and they're creating them to go sideways and chip it sideways here and there and not use the corridor, because their asset is pretty much like Geelong, just going through the corridor and that real rebound footy and leaving the forward 50 open. But you try and press up for them and put a lot of pressure on their ball carriers like Pittard and Stewart and that, and if you get them double guessing, they turn over the ball.
It also helps out that they've got a few players that just aren't quite in the form that they were in when we played them last time. Like Wingard looks like half the player he was earlier in the year. I think he's tiring out in his second season. Schultz hasn't been in brilliant form recently either, and he gave us a bit of trouble earlier in the year. Then you got to look at Polek hasn't been brilliant recently. I know he got 22 disposals, but he wasn't exactly very effective, and he couldn't get much run today. Robbie Gray wasn't great either. Like, if we can keep these players quiet, then I'm confident about getting a result. Especially now we're going to be getting both Hanbury and Buddy back on the weekend. Like, this is going to be the strongest team we played all year. Besides Alex Johnson, I don't think we can have a stronger team.
No, I agree with that. Besides Alex Johnson, there wouldn't be a stronger team at the moment. But even if Alex Johnson was available, who would you drop at the moment? You know what I mean? Rampy's playing so good, and Rowan, and not really like for like position. So I love Alex Johnson, but he would have been in the side, I presume. But
I think the other player we may have to bring in this weekend is Laidler. There's going to be a matchup for him.
No, I disagree with that. I don't think there will be a matchup for Laidler this week.
Yeah.
I think he's too slow.
Well, if they've got Westhoff up forward, they've got Schultz, and then they start resting a lob or something, we're going to need a third defender.
A lob. They're going to release the lob, and who's going to go in the ruck?
Yeah.
Lobe. Who's going to go in the ruck while he's resting forward?
Ebert. Yeah, good point, actually.
They only play two tall forwards. You don't at the moment. Laidler's fighting with Rowan. They're playing the exact same position. People say Laidler was playing on tools. I don't think I've seen him on many tools at all this year. He's always been taking the smaller, medium-sized players, and that's pretty much what Gary Rowan's done since he's come in. And
I just like the way that Laidler can actually read the ball and get in front of tools. That's the issue. Like, they said, Longmire did say on the weekend the only reason he wasn't played was because we didn't really have a matchup for him. I think in Longmire's eyes, he's probably best 22.
Nah, I'd have to disagree with that. I don't think he is. Otherwise, he'd be playing on the weekend. Why stuff around with the back 6 or 7 if he's in the best 22?
Okay, fair enough. We'll see. Who do you reckon what the ins and outs will be?
Obviously, Hanbury and Buddy come in for Towers and Membray, which I'm a little bit spewing about Membray, but at the moment, with the forward line the way it's going, he probably really doesn't have a spot up there if Buddy comes back in, which is a little bit disappointing because I think he worked his ass off on the weekend and ran to a lot of the right spots and got ignored probably at least 4 or 5 times, and if that was an Adam Goods leading up, that they would have kicked it to him. So I was a little bit disappointed with that, but as you say, he's behind Adam Goods, he's behind Sam Reid, he's behind Kurt Tippett, he's behind Buddy Franklin, so which is a little bit of a shame. But it'd have to be Towers and Membray in for Buddy and Hanbury, and probably Lloyd goes back to being the sub, which I think it really suits Lloyd.
Yeah, actually, I was really impressed with Lloyd on the weekend as the sub, 8 disposals. I think Longmire, he'll play sub again this week, but I think Longmire might be wary about having Lloyd play 3 or more weeks in a row as a sub, especially as he'll probably need game time. But that being said, he seems to have a nice little spot in the team at the moment, so hopefully he keeps it.
Definitely.
Now, we may as well go for tips, sure things, and worst nightmares for the weekend. Eth-dog.
Tips? I think Sydney will win by a similar margin to last time, maybe 7 points. I think a sure thing is that Essendon will bounce back hard against Richmond because, quite frankly, we won't kick it as badly and have our run shut down as well for the rest of the year because we don't play your Fremantle again. And worst nightmare, I actually haven't. Paddy Ryder goes down with an injury because if he does, we are screwed.
And suddenly, like that, we become the Essendon Board podcast. Okay, Punts, your tip, sure thing, and worst nightmare?
I think we'll get up by three goals if the midfield turns up. my sure thing is, I think Buddy will touch him up again like he did earlier in the year. I think he'll be back with a
vengeance.
5 goals for. And worst nightmare is to get spanked in the clearances again and get beaten, and an injury to a key player at this time of year.
Okay, my sure thing is for us to never have another bet online on the podcast again. Like, whose idea was it? Was Von's idea to say how many goals Buddy will kick last week, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. We're never allowing Von to make a bet again. In all seriousness, sure thing, I think Goods will kick 3 goals as leading up forward against Port Adelaide, the third option. My worst nightmare is for Port Adelaide to outrun us in the last quarter again when they're coming off a 6-day break versus an 8-day break. That would be a bit of a disaster. And my tip for the weekend will be the Swans by 8 points. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast, sponsored by Essendon. Thank you for listening and have a great night.